everybody, and welcome to the Lite Night. I'm your host, Olga Nesterova. Yes, it is a very different setting and different topic, but I'm still human, I'm still normal, and I hope you tune in and want to participate in this important discussion. So first and foremost, the Lite Night was created not in order to promote something or speak out against something. It's actually here to promote common sense. And as we know, common sense is not that common. And right now, when we're so divided, when a lot of changes are happening and we don't really know how to react, it is important to withstand from sharing those highlights and headlines that either excite you or make you super angry. And I have so many people who share those articles with me without even reading them. And I'm part of you. You know, I'm seeing, oh my God, Trump is selling pardons, and I'm boom, fast to share. NRA filed foreclosure, sharing. But when you click on it, you actually see them moving to Texas, right? And that's why they filed the bankruptcy. So it is super important to open the articles and actually dig into it. And so the first things first, I want to talk about a few things that did happen in the very few days leading up to it. I know we spoke virtually last week, and this week is actually very interesting. We are going live today, Monday, then Wednesday, Inauguration Day, and Friday, and I will feature very special people who will talk about specific topics, because it is very important to discuss topics and actually speak to those who are directly connected to the outcomes of those regulations, policies, right? So first things first, 100 pardons. That's what's happening tomorrow. I don't know is that the art of the deal, right? There is a report. I know, I have to say allegedly. So allegedly, Trump's associate reported that a former CIA agent inquired, how can you get a pardon? He asked Giuliani. There's no better way to get the answer. And the answer was $2 million. And so tomorrow, 100 pardons at $2 million a piece. That's better than Christmas, at least for all of us. So is that a big sale? I thought it was like, you know, buy one, get one free or whatever. But I guess that's the art of the deal. So you may agree with it, you may not agree with it. But what I am concerned about is the whole idea of pardoning. Because the whole idea was there to promote, first and foremost, fairness, right? And I have my notes, fairness and justice and mercy, because I wanted to stick to the notes here. It is very important. That's why the pardoning was actually introduced to the system. And also, don't forget that a lot of executions have been restarted during the Trump era, right? And people who were executed really had some questionable cases. I'm not going to go deep into it. You can just Google it. The lady who has been executed last week, you know, there are so many cases that could have been handled and could have been saved by using those pardons. And what we do, we create business with it. I know people love Trump for being an entrepreneur and for being a business owner. And yes, great. I love the TV show. I love the reality show. I love the whole business aspect to it. But you cannot make business out of specific things that exist in our system and the government to actually promote fairness, mercy, justice. Those things are not for sale. Next thing is final days of Trump. It is what it is. It's not a peaceful transition. If you watch TV, and yes, you can watch Fox News or CNN, I don't care, God bless you, but you see it's not a peaceful transition. Peaceful transition does not require blocking off all the streets and not allowing people who actually elect their leader to see their leader being sworn in, right? Everything is online. But it is what it is, and what does it lead to? I mean, there are logistics. I worked in politics. There's so many logistics people don't really talk about. So what does happen is, for instance, nuclear codes. They are handled in the ball, right? And that has to be transitioned from one president to the other. But if they are 10,000 miles apart, you know, you cannot do that physically. So what will happen? They have to create a second set of nuclear codes that Trump's 1201 on Wednesday is going to go off, and not off, hopefully, but it's going to shut down. And then Biden's is going to start working. So people do work around it, but we as a nation, would love to see two leaders actually shake hands and transition the power. That's what we're here for. And ultimately, when Trump leaves, whether you love it or not, whether you agree with that or not, those are facts and that will happen. And we have to live with that. And we have to live with that with each other. And I have a lot of friends who are Trump supporters. And when he leaves, we have to still be friends, or we have to still do business together. And plus, social media and a lot of social media owners and social media founders are reacting with censorship. And that's what we're going to talk about today. How does censorship actually affect real people? Those who are not connected to QAnon and have horns and walk around or do something, but we're all affected with it. And I actually have a personal example with that too, and I'll share it as well. Military standoff. That's another story. That's allegedly is happening Wednesday morning. Trump wants military standoff. We don't really do it in this country. This is actually the country. And I know a lot of Europeans, right, high homeland, they ask me, what is happening? You guys storming Capitol building? What is happening? And honestly, I'm saying, well, this too shall pass. And you probably received that message if you wrote me about what's happening. Because no, I don't want to talk about it. United States is actually the country that we escape to, not from, right? We go through all this BS just to escape to United States because that's the country of freedom, the land of the free, where you can run businesses, where you have freedom of speech. We're talking, right? And now we see those things. And I'm not going to go into details and overshare things, but, for those Europeans who do see those pictures, and those pictures remind you on something that happened in your motherland. Yes, those are true. Because we people are sane, right? And we have things that makes us angry. We have things that make us happy. And we function pretty much same. So if you manage to hit the nerve of a person, either in a good way to excite and motivate somebody, or in a negative way where the person will be aggressive and will follow your lead and do, right? It can happen in any country. And the different mentality that is in the United States does not withhold people from reacting to incentives. And that's what is happening here. Also, don't forget that actually quite beautiful celebrations are happening online in connection to Biden-Harris inauguration. Yesterday, I virtually attended the concert. It was wonderful. It was just 1 hour. I love it. I don't need to be sitting there for 3-4 hours. It was wonderful, and it was just so positive. And people spoke about, the kind of like closing the chapter, opening a new chapter, and doing it with the new leader. And again, what I mentioned earlier, it is important for us to start communicating, to find the common ground, to start communicating, because yes, in business, you will find people who do not share your opinion, and you still have to work with them. And in your family, you might have different people with different opinions, and you still have to communicate. So don't make a hard stop here. So, leading to the main subject today, I want to talk about media, and I want to talk about censorship. Because again, yesterday I read that Twitter banned 70,000 accounts who were allegedly, as they said, connected to QAnon. And it depends what side of the story you're on. You can react with, oh my God, how dare them? That's censorship. Oh my God. Or you can be super happy about it. Yes, we need more of them. You find your way. But when we see statistics, and when I worked for UN, you see statistics. You see death as statistic, you see censorship as statistics. And when you do not connect to those people who actually go through it, who are directly affected, you don't have any emotions to it, right? You also don't have facts, because you see the stats and you're like, okay, I like it, I don't like it, next. But when it concerns you, that's when it comes crazy important, right? The same thing what happened with COVID. How many people said, COVID does not exist, mask, no. And then somebody, boom, slam, bam, gets sick, or God forbid, passes away. Now it is serious. The same thing happened in Congress. It was not important, It was not important to actually even call white supremacists or supremacy by the name or call those organizations and stop them. It was not important until they were actually affected. So, speaking about censorship, I would love to introduce a very special person. She was on the Undeniable Realness show on Onest TV, and she's the professional and the coach for a lot of freelancers and the founder of Business BEactive. Hi, Marie.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for listening. I know you sat there. It's a long story, but thank you for being here. Thank you for daring to speak about this subject. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I was saying earlier that I usually don't come online and talk about stuff like this, but I feel like if there was a time, it's now. So definitely, happy and, honored to be here with you again. So it's gonna be really fun.
Right. And I know these topics are very serious. Last time we connected, we talked about business, entrepreneurship, and now it's all kind of like, what do we do? Right. And I was blocked on Instagram. You know that. People who follow me know that. So I have this kind of firsthand experience why I was blocked, and I'm just going to get you through it. And if somebody works for Instagram or Facebook and thinks I'm wrong and has the receipts, contact me. I would be the first to correct me. Right? And to correct myself and tell you the truth. But what I found out is that somebody was just smashing the block button or report button for harassment and nudity. Look at me, harassment, nudity. And I was blocked for 48 hours, and I think they checked that I haven't posted anything alike, and then they kind of unbanned me today. So if this would have happened to you or to your businesses, for someone who relies on social media and media in general for income, how would that affect you?
Absolutely. There's been a lot of issues with that. I've worked with a lot of different clients who have that issue, a lot of small businesses that have that issue. And it could simply, and I hate to make it sound so simple, but sometimes it is, it could simply just be someone, a competitor, someone that doesn't like you for whatever reason, and they just hit the button. And that's, there's obviously pros and cons with social media and the censorship is a whole thing that we're talking about. But as far as like self-censorship and having the ability to report, people who are either fake or anything like that, that's fine. But people who misuse those tools, there's, not so much that we can do about it. So we just have to be prepared if it does happen to us.
Right. And also, that's what you mentioned, that it can be anybody who can just report you. And I understand where Instagram in this case comes from, or Facebook, that if somebody says somebody is promoting or inciting violence, yes, they probably have those automatic, resources or whatever to block the person right away until further notice. And this is important, especially now, one day or what is it? It's 48 hours before the inauguration. But if that remains after that, I understand now everything is high alert. But if that remains afterwards and somebody blocks you, and let's say you or, people who you coach who rely on social media for income go blank for 48 hours, how would that affect your business or somebody who is on social media present?
Absolutely. So, the bottom line, and it's taking away our voice. So that's what this whole thing is about, right? Is just having our voice, whether it's on a very large or very small platform. Just having a voice is really important, and we all deserve to do that. We were talking about this before, but having a disaster plan is super important, even for someone like me who runs, a local freelance event, who works with local freelancers. If I'm running an event and say, I have a collaborator or I do an event with someone and somebody else doesn't like that and reports us. And for example, if I'm hosting Freelance Business Week and we get shut down for 2 days, our event is only 5 days long. That it disables me from almost half of my event. And that it would have a terrible effect on, the engagement, things like that, the experience for the people who are involved. And then, it could cause, a little bit of chatter, but at the same time, there's other people who have, there are a lot of people who have e-commerce businesses that if they just say one wrong thing or, upset the wrong person, that they could be, down for 48 hours without sales. I know some people who have thousands of dollars in sales a day. And if they get banned for those 2 days, they could lose, upwards of 10 grand. And that's not fair. Of course, if they do something that's truly bannable, I mean, then yeah, fine.
It's
but if it's
legal
something that they weren't aware of, or if it was truly just, a spammer out there doing something, then and it's very sad that there's very little we can do about it. We can't help, and we can't help ourselves. We couldn't help our friends if it's happening to them. So really just having an alternative plan, which I think is something you wanted to get into, talking about other platforms. There's not just Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. Like, there's other ways to connect with your audiences. And it's really important to maintain those all the time, not just when, disaster strikes. Right.
And that's so important, so to speak, not to put all the eggs into one basket. What do you think about emails? Is it still there? I know, I don't want to make it political, but for instance, Don Jr. went on Facebook right here live and asked to send the emails so they can connect with people if he gets banned. And, you may like him or hate him, but that's a very rational action. Would you support that maybe prior, not when you're already scared to get banned, but it's important to build your sort of email base rather than just to have followers and likes and comments?
Well, so there's a term in the marketing world, it's called omni-channel marketing. You should be doing it all the time. So, most times I'll say, pick 3 platforms that work for you. And the reason I do that is because, small business owners usually don't have a lot of time or a lot of money to pay someone else to do it for them. So 3 is a manageable amount of platforms, say Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, like that's manageable, right? But to do, Pinterest, Twitter, Twitch, like whatever else, to do all those things, it can be costly. But it's not to say that you shouldn't have them, or at least attempt to have a presence there. For me, for example, I don't really post on Twitter, but I have a Twitter account. I share on it once in a while. When I do events or live events, I'll go on Twitter. And, if something happened, I mean, I know most of them are connected, that I can use an alternative social media channel. Another really great thing that I wanted to bring up was creating your own community. So depending on your platform and what you do, a lot of people have Facebook and Facebook groups, but there's alternatives. For example, the Mighty Networks, where you can create your own, it's really like your own forum. The Mighty Networks, it's a great place for my co-working space, I created an online community there. It's not heavily regulated like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or what have you. I'm not saying I'm going to do anything there, but the reach is smaller, the people are smaller, the government cares less about what's happening in that offline community, essentially, even though it's online. It's just not in a mainstream social. But back to what you're saying about emails, curate your email list all the time. I mean, it just sensible marketing. You have an email capture on your website. When you're reaching out and communicating with people, you put them into a database, with their permission, of course, but having that as a backup. I mean, you should be doing it all the time. You should be sending emails maybe monthly, quarterly, what have you. But having that in case of a disaster is really important, because that's how you're going to reach them. Say, even if simply someone's website goes down, I don't know if you've ever had this where you shop online somewhere or whatever. Right. I don't know. Just for example, I'm just going to pick Lululemon. That's random. If their website is down, they might send you an email and say like, oops, our website's down. Sorry if you're trying to shop with us right now, but we'll be back soon. Like, they let you know that they're having, like an internal disaster, and how else to, reach them, or they'll maybe give you a code or something for a discount after, so they don't lose those customers. And I think that's the point that you want to drive home here, is that what's happening in politics and what's happening on the big scale really affects those of us that are smaller. And oftentimes, I said this earlier, we don't get involved. I say like, oh, I'm really not political. I'm not. But sometimes you have to be, to get ahead of the other stuff. So.
Absolutely. And also, I tried this TikTok. It took me a year to figure out. I tried to learn the dances and it didn't stick with me. Then I tried to talk about, post Onest TV programs, and I feel like they need something different. So I started just commenting on the news and figuring out, does it make sense? Does it not make sense? And you get the trolls, right? Who are really negative and comments, who always provoke you to curse them out or shut them up. And I know, and I'm really kind of like, okay, stay calm, because
you'll always get that when you get to a higher level, when you have more followers and a higher reach. Yeah, for sure.
Right. So when for business owners, if you speak about maybe brand, right? Personal brand or your business as a brand, do we need to right now include also the style of comments to know when to pull the plug, when to wish a good day and move on without getting into a heated conversation? Should that be a part of a branding right now too?
So it's really interesting you say that, because it all comes down to common sense, right? You're talking about common sense, as a human, and then as a business person, you kind of just have to know when to not engage, right? You initially, I mean, we're human, so initially we want to defend ourselves, but when we do that, we're coming from a place of, I don't know, anger, anxiety. Mm-hmm. We could be coming from all kinds of places, and that's not a good time to respond. So yes, I would say prepare ahead of time some canned responses to certain things that, so you can go into your notes or your memos, whatever, and just copy and paste what it is that you want to say to end it, turn the comments off, which can be a controversial, solution. Some people say if you turn the comments off, you're eliminating the voice, things like that. But have just a standard thing to say. And then something I learned from my first business mentor ever is that she always sat on something for 3 days. If she got an email she didn't like, or someone was attacking her or said something, she would say, okay, I'm going to sit on this for 3 days and I'll respond after. And I think that that's a really good way to approach it. Yeah, for sure. I mean, sometimes 3 days can be long. Like I'll do like 24 hours maybe. But that's something, but that's something you do in your personal life even. So I'm just hoping people, at least the ones that are watching this, that whatever you do in your personal life, say if someone like a good friend of yours upsets you or doesn't agree with you on something, take, a step back for 24 hours and then go from there. Don't go off, which is really hard for a lot of us. A lot of people, especially during these times, we're all cooped up. We want to speak our piece and all those things, but sometimes it's easier just to wait or listen.
It actually, if you apply that for your relationship or your work situation, it's always good to kind of take the step back. And there was this. I watched the movie, very old movie with Michael Douglas called American President yesterday.
Oh, and yeah. Okay.
It's very cute. I loved it. It was so cute. And there was this phrase that he said, if Lincoln or whoever, Benjamin Franklin had media 24/7, probably we wouldn't like him that as much.
No, right? Like Lincoln's definitely my favorite, but who knows if he had a Twitter, I don't know.
Exactly. So we all kind of online, and that will always stay with you. So you might regret something, saying something, posting something, you might even delete it, but then in the system or somebody just took a screenshot and that will haunt you later. Remember the whole Kevin Hart situation, right? Yeah. So, but for those, let's say, freelancers, entrepreneurs who are scared now, and I reached out to quite few people to jump on and share their opinion, and you are the trooper who said yes, and many people are like, I'm afraid, I don't want to even, right? So if we're scared,
I felt that way a little bit. I'm like, okay, like, what am I going to say? Like, don't say anything crazy because, I have social media accounts too. You have to be protective. But it's really the truth. And I'm not over here like one side or the other. So,
right.
But as far as anyone who is scared, I think it's just, if you're in business for the right reasons and you're sharing that story, just keep doing that. Don't duck in, but keep in mind that it will affect us, and just stay smart, listen to the news, reliable news outlets, wherever you get your news that's reliable, fact check things like you were saying earlier, and then, work accordingly. If you have something that you want to say that's maybe more left or right, maybe that's something you take offline. Maybe that's something you do off of mainstream social media. Like I said, there's other places you can build community that maybe aren't as heavily monitored. And, of course, it's not like I'm trying to find like some secret, dark web place to go to talk about this stuff. It's, somewhere that you can speak freely about it and it's not as heavily judged because you're in a room of people who think the same. So it just, I guess it depends on where you're sitting. I mean, of course, I'm not saying any of this with any, negative or any of the other, the groups out there. I don't condone any of that ever. But just for us as small business owners and as humans, we deserve to be able to find a safe place to share, our opinions. But just, keep keep it close. The people you want to tell things about, it's just like in real life. I don't tell, my religious or political views or opinions to everyone. I tell them to, I don't know, maybe a handful of people that I really love and trust with that. And it's the same thing on social media.
Right. And also, let's imagine something happens to somebody like me. I got blocked. So how do you react? Would you recommend to, let's say, send an email and say, well, our Instagram is, or whatever platform is currently compromised. You can still reach us out there. Or do you sort of like neglect it, go with the flow to kind of save your face? What would some people do? Because I think knowing what your next would be just gives you some peace, right?
Right, absolutely.
You don't know whether it will happen or not, but what is the smart thing about it?
And I think with a lot of things marketing, it depends on your audience. If for me, for example, if I disappear off social for 2 days, people probably just think I'm snowboarding or something. It's not a big deal. So maybe it's not necessary for me, to say anything. But for you, someone that's very vocal and is out there and has shows and things like that every day, an email would probably be a good idea. So, I don't know, like, if it would be today or, sometime this week, craft an email that if something happens, it's got a subject line like, oops, like so-and-so, whatever happened, respond to this email if you have questions, or if you're trying to reach me, this is how to do it. You can do that. But like I said, it depends on your audience and who's trying to reach you. Especially if you're in e-commerce, I would definitely say have some type of email crafted, maybe even have, I don't know, this is totally off the top of my head, have a backup site that's like, if my main website's down, here's like, I don't know, your select list of items that you can order for now. And here's a super, like an awesome discount on all those things, because I know that this is inconvenient for you. I know we were talking about Lululemon earlier. So like if, their site crashed for whatever reason, they had like a little site with like 5 items on it for half off. You would probably still be intrigued to go back to them. They wouldn't lose those customers forever. So again, off the top of my head, but I think it's always good to have a backup plan, and then probably a backup to that too.
Right. And it can happen anytime. Even without censorship, we went live on Roku. The very first day of Onest TV was the Artists for Justice thing. It was all dedicated to veterans, and it crashed.
Right.
And it was on repeat. It was like the 2 hours that were kind of on Roku, and it went on repeat. And then I got all these messages. When am I going to be there? Because it keeps repeating. So it can happen to you. So I feel that, first of all, like owning your mistake and saying, hey, I, messed up, something did happen. Or if you did mess up, well, something did actually happen, because I feel like, for us not to admit that something did happen makes us look foolish.
It makes it look way worse. Yeah.
Right. Which actually, you're not political. Here.
Oh, it's okay.
I know
it's okay.
Harry's not part of it, but I've seen and heard actually, and I tried myself. When you call the White House now, they play music to you when you're on hold, and it's "We Are the Champions." And see, and that's what leads me to this whole discussion we're having, right? Like, be authentic, be realistic. Like that is just should be part of your brand. If you
and I have friends, even they're not clients, but friends that and they do certain things on Instagram that may or may not be frowned upon, but they're operating just enough under where they need to be, and it's working. And then sometimes they get a little threatened, and then they adjust proactively, which I think is really smart. There's only so much of that we can regulate, but also just being smart about it, I think is key.
Right. And when I was actually researching news sources, right, to see whether they're right or left, and you find most of them at either right center or left center. So for instance, Business Insider, I used an article to quote from there, and I was thinking, well, are they really left or right, or how do I refer to it? And they said we actually center, but we use the left language, which can be part of the marketing strategy as well. Again, you said your audience, right? Who your audience is, whether there's some people like Gary Vee, whatever, who curse, and that's the audience, and that excites people. If I start doing that might cause a different reaction. So kind of like knowing what's the language and what's the message with your audience, I guess, is the key, and being human, right?
Right. Exactly. Definitely. Fingers crossed. I haven't had any of this happen to me, but I'm like not that big of an account, which is
It
fine.
won't. It won't.
And that's the thing about like back to the common sense thing is just knowing when to shut up, like knowing when to stop, just know when to be
Right.
done. You know, you can
Yes.
be as passionate about anything. Like I'm really passionate about freelancing, and sometimes I get really amped up about corporate America, and I want to just say stuff, but I'm like, is it really worth it? I'm like, I don't know, it's not. So, or I can say it, you know, behind closed doors and just, you know, and do it strategically. You know, fight my good fight strategically and kind of quiet, and you know, do it in the best light so people aren't like, oh well, Marie, she just hates corporate America. Like I don't hate corporate America, I just think there's a better way to do things sometimes. So there's
Right.
just a way of positioning yourself.
Right. And I think having a difference of opinions, even within one industry, when people do agree on everything, it just promotes progress. We cannot agree on everything all the time because ideas, first and foremost, and you know it as an entrepreneur, as a freelancer, people first think like, oh my God, what are you doing? That's not even going to happen. Then you make it happen and they become your fans, right? So
Right.
we kind of go through this struggle anyway. And I feel absolutely, you're absolutely right for.
And I think bottom line, the more people we have on the internet, the longer the internet is around, the longer social media is around, we're going to have more problems. It's just going to happen. That's what, you know, the bigger the population, the more problems we have. It's just the way it is. And we just have to kind of roll with it. But, you know, and I understand that the companies and the government, like they're just doing the best that they can. I mean, sometimes it feels that way at least. You know, as long as the right people are there, but we're the ones, and I guess this is a little political, like we do have an opinion as the people, so we should probably voice that. So like, you know, vote and all that other good stuff.
Right, absolutely, yes, and I agree completely. And thank you for making this Lite Night, because you brought the light.
Thank you.
It's
Thank you.
spelling, but it's not connected to Coca-Cola. But how can people? Can you tell us in a few sentences what you do? How can people connect with you and maybe become your client?
Oh, of course, you're so sweet. Well, I'm Rachelle. I'm the coach for aspiring freelancers. So anyone looking to do their own thing. I know a lot of people are unemployed or unhappily employed right now. You're so sweet. My handle's here. So just at Marie Rachelle with an underscore at the end on Instagram and Twitter. You know, happy to connect with you. If you just want to continue this conversation or pick my brain about social media or marketing and how all this affects us, you know, look me up for sure.
Yes. And go to the notes. If you're listening to this or watching, in the notes, you see Marie's website and all the handles, and you can click and follow and get connected. She's a wonderful human, and that, as you found out, is the most thing that matters.
Exactly. Yes. Thank you so much, Olga. You're the best.
Oh, thank you so much. Also, you wanted to say something about this new thing where we talk, the app. What's the called? Clubhouse.
Oh, I know. We didn't even talk about it. So I guess talking about alternative places, and this is a lead in for future conversations. If you haven't tried out Clubhouse, you haven't been there, you know, you're looking for an invite, it's an alternative social media app. It's strictly voice-based. And the reason I love it so much is because you have to stand behind your words, right? So it's not video where they can't see your face, but you still have to live say and speak and interact with people. So I think bottom line with that is that on social media, a lot of us can put a lot more behind a word because, you know, we're not really there. You don't hear our voice, you don't see our face. But like being there live, hearing someone talk, it's a lot harder to say certain things, whether it be positive or negative, on a platform like that. So, and everything is live. So it's like calling into a live conference call. I know I do this. It's probably more like this now, but but it's like calling into a live conference call. You can have conversations with people from all over the world. And voice your opinion and hear what they're saying in other places. I know that, you know, with the Capitol building, they had people on Clubhouse showing what was really happening, and it was nothing like what they were showing on the news. I know you're surprised because I didn't tell you about this yet. But there is a peek into the realness of us, I guess, as people on there that, you know, who knows where it'll lead to as it grows, but it's just really nice, at least at this time, to connect with, you know, celebrities. I mean, I'm in multiple rooms with Grant Cardone and, you know, like who else was Lupe Fiasco? Like there were, you know, other like famous people in there that you can connect with on a very real level, and they're not hiding behind their words or their picture or anything like that. It's really interesting. So.
And maybe less intimidating. And also what I love about it, that you don't even need to inflate your behind or your proportion.
Right. You don't have to, you don't have to be perfect. Like you could be in your pajamas, no makeup, no, whatever. It's a great place to connect. It's definitely addictive, like all social media. But then I also think for introverts, it's a really nice way to network because again, sometimes they don't want to be on social. They don't want to go physically to networking meetings, especially in a pandemic. But you can still network via your voice. So a lot of artists, a lot of poets, a lot of, screenwriters, they're reading their poems and their plays to get feedback where otherwise like a live reading would be very intimidating. So yes, to keep the night light, it's a great place for people of all kinds. So I think that that's something worth checking out if you are interested in it.
I love it. Yeah. I can't wait to jump on it. I had an invite. I haven't done anything with it. So
no, you told me about it first.
Right? Yeah. I got invited. I was like, what is this thing? And it sends you notifications. I click on it and then suddenly people are listening to me. I was like, what is that? Anyway, but we want to go on Clubhouse next week, right? And we want to talk about censorship. We want to talk about media and entrepreneurs. And so if you're a business owner and you just want to have this relaxed atmosphere, maybe you're not a business owner, but you want to talk about media and what suggestions can you share with others or just listen to us talking about it? It will be kind of like a continuation of today's conversation, which I thoroughly enjoyed. So we will be, I'll send all this info. So we will be on all social media, just inviting you there, but you have 1 week to get that invite that will get you there because that's invitation only. Okay. So use your social media network to get the invite and we see you there, right?
Awesome. Thank you as always.
As I started this sort of program episode talking about common sense, and common sense is not really that common, and we are so driven by our anxiety and feelings and fear, and everything is just very, very different right now than it was before. So my idea here is to promote common sense on also TikToks or wherever you're doing it, right? And I'm not against somebody or pro somebody. Yes, now I am more Democratic than Republican because why? Because I think some things make more sense than the other, right? You can hate me, you can love me for that. But how do we build common sense? First, we need to listen. And second, we need to hear, right? As Marie said, we're sitting there in Clubhouse, we can listening to things or music or whatever, and it can just go from here in, there out. So try to listen and also hear the message. And third, we need to analyze. When we analyze what we're hearing, right, we can say, okay, that's BS. That makes sense. Okay, I never thought about it. Okay. And then we build an opinion. So then you kind of first adopt those facts as yours. You say, okay, that makes sense for me personally. That is becoming my opinion. And then you can find like-minded people or actually even communicate with people you never thought you would be ever communicating, right? So you kind of open your mindset, open your horizon to hearing more facts and more different opinions. And yes, diversify your media. Clubhouse, TikTok, whatever. If dancing is not for you, don't do the dancing, right? If being political is not for you, don't be political, but diversify so you don't fall into this category that will be compromised by the upcoming changes, because they will come. There should be consequences. So today is Monday. I see you on Wednesday. Wednesday is Inauguration Day. We come live here again at 5 p.m. Eastern, which will be, I guess, somewhere in between of the official inauguration events. And we will be talking about Black Lives Matter movement. We will be talking about white privilege. We will be talking about not just how to keep the Black Lives Matter movement alive, but how to keep improving ourselves. So I truly encourage people, white people, people of color, to tune in and communicate with each other. And also, today you haven't used it, but comment, and we will respond to the comments. I will invite somebody who has joined the Black Lives Matter March, and what did they see? What did they learn? How do we go from there? How do we keep it alive? All right. So this is the Lite Night. I need a better, less white light next time. And I see you on Wednesday. Stay safe, stay well, and keep the common sense going.